Perception and Culture. Courtney Madden, College of Adult and Graduate Studies, Colorado Christian University, Relational Psychology, 202A, Stephanie Krasinski, February 21st, 2021. Web-based social cognition. When we look at the world around us, we see technology everywhere. There's phones, there's smart watches, there's all of these different technologies that we are completely saturated in. And a lot of our communication is online. Specifically now with COVID, there's just all of that in-person, face-to-face interaction that we used to have. Those opportunities just aren't there. So we're starting to see each other online. So we're starting to ask what things in this online culture, how do we understand who people are? So one of those questions of research is what cues online are used to form initial impressions of others? Those are the things that we do to interact online, the texting, the memes, and other such things. Like, how do we communicate with each other? So the findings suggest that there is some consistency between first impressions formed in response to observations made in the real world and impressions based on information found on web pages. So that's a good thing. It means that there is a connection between how we've perceived people in real life and how we perceive them online, even if we've just perceived them online to how they are. So there is that connection. It's not 100%, but there is a connection. So that's good news. So the researchers have found that those who rated an online partner made less detailed but more intense personality descriptions of their partners than did those who interacted face to face. So we're seeing different things in how we're perceiving people via online or in person. So cultural perception is how we perceive the world around us. So in the video that we were watching, it says, we all see the world through cultural glasses. But what does that mean? So as a Christian, I see my world through the cultural glasses of Christianity. And one scripture that helps highlight that and inform my actions is Matthew 22:36 through 40. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. English Standard Version. So what that means is if I see someone on the side of the road, I want to help them. But first what I do is I pray to God because God comes first. And then I want to help that because we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. Because I am loved, I want to show love through helping as it goes through. So that is the idea. I see the world through that lens and that understanding. So there's other cultures around the world as well. And in the video, the Borel told of a friend and him going someplace different from where they were, and they were touring and they were listening to this lady talk and all this, and she had to stop because she couldn't understand Borel's friend's expressions. She was looking at it and was confused as to why he was acting the way he was, meaning that she was interpreting the fact that he had a neutral face on and what it would mean if someone in her culture would have that face. And it would mean that the person was not interested. So she sees this person totally neutral face and goes, I can't comprehend that because what I'm saying is interesting and I expect them to be interested in what I'm saying and I'm getting none of the responses that I would normally get. However, in Burrell's friend's culture, the way that he was interacting was normal. It is what is perceived as normal. But because they had different cultural ideas, they didn't mesh. They came to a point and they couldn't get there. But one of the points that Borel made is that when we change our lenses to understand their culture, we can then learn and grow from that and appreciate diversity. So one of the cultural things that I looked up was China and the US that we're going through. So in the US, we have a very independent-minded, we're going to do it our way value system. You know, there's that one person at the top that you're going through. You've got this pyramid and you're trying to get to the top. That is the idea. But there's this thing in China where they're sharing a meal. And this meal is a hot pot. And the hot pot has a broth inside of it, and you've got all of this uncooked food on the outside, and you put it into there, and everyone cooks as they're eating and talking. And this has a symbolicness to it. So while the round shape of the apparatus is a hint at the lack of complete absence of irregularities in the man-to-man relationship, undoubtedly this way of eating is not only a figurative embodiment, but a visual indication of the willingness to eat from the same pot and to share the same lot. This is the most highly prized merit of group consciousness. So in China, you see that group collectiveness, while in the US, you see that independence that they're striving for. And we can also see that in the family dynamic. You don't have a lot of families that are intertwined necessarily. There's that great status symbol of living on your own and away from your parents. So we see in this that grandparents tend to live with their children even after they are married and have their own children. And children are expected to look after their parents once they are married and working. So what that means is that the first generation then brings up the next generation, but that next generation doesn't leave the nest. They are there taking care of their parents once they are stable, once they're married and working. There's that family dynamic, unlike in the US where you have a lot of people that will put their parents in a nursing home if they need that help. So those are some of the differences. So one of the surprising things that I found was the ping pong. It didn't even occur to me. So it's the national sport since the 50s. And it says a vehicle to recover national pride and facilitating international relations. This explains why China always does so well in global ping pong tournaments, better than any other country at any sport. This also explains why many neighborhoods in China have public ping pong tables, as Chinese people love to play sports together outside, especially the elderly. So this connection and this ping pong thing and how it's been such deeply entrenched in their culture was really a surprise. So what I've learned is how I perceived China before is I was interested. I didn't know about it really. There was things that just I felt a connection to it, an interest to it. And what I've learned is the community aspect that they have. That communityness that they have is something that I have always been interested in. So when I learned about that community aspect, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And that's the overall learning is the community, and that togetherness is something that I see as Christ wanting us to do as well. And so I appreciate that and learn how that connects me to them. My references are Borrell J.S. 2015, How Cultural Drives Behavior, YouTube, TEDx, Candace 2021, 10 Interesting Facts to Help You Understand Chinese Culture, China Highlights, Penn State 2021, Chinese Culture, Traditions, and Customs, Penn State Science, Sabatos AM 2012, Social Psychology in a Christian Perspective, InterVarsity Press.